Hey everybody, it's Bart, Nature Guy. Just want to let you know it's a great time to get outside. I was able this morning to wake up before sunrise. I got to see a beautiful sunrise in the morning. And then there's dawn and dusk are the animals that are out at that time of day are just super vocal. The animals that come out at dawn and dusk and primarily use that kind of in between light time they're called diurnal. So a lot of times we know the term nocturnal for like bats and other animals, but during the time of sunrise and sunset, those diurnal animals have only a brief moment to kind of get out and be about, and it's also some time that you can see some other animals that you may not normally see during the daytime. So if you have an opportunity in your life to kind of get outside a little bit, maybe find a quiet space to sit, I really encourage you to do that. I know it's really hard to kind of get off the phone sometimes, but one of the things I've encouraged people when I do my forest therapy work is when we take trips on airplanes, it doesn't mean that we don't have our phones with us, but we do the airplane mode, and what that does is kind of takes away your cellular service, so you're not getting text messages and you're not able to check the Instagram or TikTok or any of those things. So those things that are kind of coming to you, it kind of allows you a moment to check out a little bit. And so, but if something cool comes around and you have a camera, you might see a cool bird and you want to take a picture of it, and that gives you that chance. Also, sometimes people just get really stressed out when they don't have their phones on them. So I understand that. So, but if you can get outside, find a 10-minute sit somewhere just to be, and I also encourage you to kind of go through your five senses. So what are you smelling? How does the air feel that day? Close your eyes, listen to what's going on around you, use those eyes, and also what are some of the smells, especially this time of year in the spring. There's just so much going on in regards to the melt and all this kind of new scent after it's been kind of buried underneath the snow. All this new stuff is kind of coming forward, all sorts of cool new smells that are coming. Sometimes there's some new flowers that are coming out every day in the neighborhood, so I encourage you to do that as well. So just think about that. I'm going to continue to give you guys some mindful outdoor engagement stuff as we go on. But today, I wanted to kind of wrap up the tent pole piece. So last time we went over kind of how to replace some bungee cord. I have kind of 3 more pieces on what if your tent pole breaks actually. So what happens if you get out there and you're putting your tent pole together and something cracks, or it's fiberglass tent poles like this oftentimes split. And also with aluminum tent poles, oftentimes they'll actually kind of bend. If you can imagine like an aluminum straw or even just a regular plastic straw, when you bend it, once it cracks, it really loses its strength. So wanted to kind of go over one other thing with you in regards to replacing bungee cord. If you're ever having a hard time stringing bungee cord through the tent pole, one thing you can do is actually create, using a long wire. I don't know if you can see this with this black wire, but you can have a long wire and actually thread it through like a big needle and get to the other side and pull that through, and then you're pulling your bungee cord through. This isn't bungee cord, but the bright green I think adds a little bit extra visual for you all to see it on the video. So, but it allows you kind of to basically thread the needle through here, pick it up on the other side right here, and pull it on through, and then you can thread your bungee cord that way. So, one of the things I wanted to first talk about is a very, very important part in my camping experiences, and that is duct tape. Most needed, but this is a lot to bring out on a campground or just put in a pack or anything like that. So one thing that's kind of cool about duct tape, I actually took about 4 or 5 feet of it and I just rolled it up. And the cool thing with duct tape is it can roll on itself again. So if you take a nice long strip of this, pull that out, rip it off, and you just start to roll it up a little bit, and kind of flat 1 foot 1 inch pieces, it will roll up real nicely. And you can use that out in your camp gear and just put it inside your tent where your tent stakes are. And that way, if you run into one of these pole issues, it's real easy to fix. It's a real quick fix. And right now I have about 7 to 10 feet of duct tape in these 2 little pieces. You definitely do not need to bring this roll out there the whole time. So let me start with one of the quickest and easiest kind of fixes out there that happens. Oftentimes when people show up, they're going quick, and if you're showing up at night, or if there's bugs, or if it's rain, and you're trying to get these tent poles together really fast, and you're like, boom, what will happen oftentimes is they'll actually push it in, and as they're putting it together, it'll crack, or there's somebody that steps on a tent pole, and that cracks. I'm gonna bring this up for you around this picnic table. So all of a sudden, right here at the metal joint, it's filled with the fiberglass pole and it's actually broken off. So what do you do with that? You have the bungee cord, it's totally intact, but how do you fix that? So number one, there's a piece, I'm gonna work on splits in a second, but this one also has a split in it. I don't know if you can see that where it's breaking apart. So let's work on this fix. One of the things that we carry with us with tent poles is actually the tent stakes. And this is actually a great support for moments like this, where now you can actually take that pole, put the tent stake right there, and simply using one of my favorite tools, duct tape, real simple. Usually what I like to do is tear off a couple pieces, get it started. If you can see this, tape it around. I'll bring it forward in a second so you can see it, just to kind of get it started. Now I'll bring it forward. So if you can see this now, we have the tent stake put in there. It's going to bend, but remember, we want that, you know, our tent poles bend as they go around the tent. So to have a little bit of a space there is absolutely okay. Then we're going to take that duct tape, wrap it, and there we go. So there is a fixed tent pole, very simple, especially with those tents that have the clips. It's really nice to have those clips versus having to slide a tent stake through kind of through the sock of some of the tents have more of a piece of fabric that you have to slide the tent pole through. This really helps with not having to deal with that ever. I really look for tents when I'm purchasing tents to have the clips versus more the socks or the slide throughs of the fabric. So that's a using a tent stake, some duct tape, really simple, easy fix. Another common thing that happens, I'm gonna bring this around for you, is the split. So this split happens, so the bungee cord's here, but inside this thing, it is all of a sudden cracked. And so this thing is split wide open. I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty substantial. It goes probably about 7 to 8, 10 inches. I already started it with a little piece of duct tape. I'll use another piece of duct tape again by grabbing this. And this is a pretty simple fix. All you want to do is slide that pole back into the joint right there, and then use the duct tape to go around it. Now this will get you definitely through a weekend. The hard part would be is if you're moving from site to site, but if you had a whole weekend, I will tell you that this is, I mean, you hardly feel a difference. You'll want to be a little bit mellow as you're putting your tent together, making sure it's fitting together a little bit, and that's a way to add some support and kind of keep that split from breaking. Obviously, when you get back from your camp trip, you're going to want to replace this tent pole in this section, and that means you have to undo the bungee cord, which is why I teach that as well. So replacing that when you get back is really crucial, and it's really easy to put tents away when you get done camping and kind of forget about it, and then you show up, you know, 6 months or a year later, end of the summer, beginning of the summer, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot about that tent pole. But having that duct tape on hand and putting it with your tent is a vitally important part to making fixes like this super easy and not really making a stressor for you the rest of your weekend. So I'm going to teach you one last piece. This is if you don't even have duct tape, what do you do now? So there's, you know, you had the tent pole, you could use a tent stake, but you could also find the things in nature to use. One of my favorite things to use is actually small green branches that have some give and some bend to them. So I'll show you this one. So what happens if all of a sudden you have a clean break? A couple different things. I'm going to use just 2 ends of a tent pole that don't have a joint at all, so it just kind of acting as if it broke right in the middle here. I don't have a tent pole. I've had obviously examples of a lot of tent poles that have a lot of problems with them because I just have a lot of tents and I have a lot of problems with them sometimes. They've definitely gotten their use. So this pole is actually 2 ends like this. If you see this, I do a lashing, so it's a figure 8. So you're taking the string in and out, right here through, and then you tie it off. What's nice is when you bend this, it starts to create a tension between the 2 poles right here. So it actually wants to stop here naturally. Then what I do is find a nice green branch that's nice and bendy. So you can see, I don't know if you can see the green on the video, but all you're gonna do is slide that up. I use a double half hitch knot here and get that that string there, and all you're going to start to do is lash this string around the stick and the pole at the same time, and the tension of that stick wanting to straighten out will actually create a nice hinge right there, and that actually holds pretty nice. It's pretty firm actually, so it doesn't take that much to fix poles, but it's nice to have a couple ideas. So you have the green stick to provide some tension. You have the tent stake and using that, especially with some duct tape, really quick fix. And then also fixing those splits. Now, of course, you could also, with the split, if you didn't have duct tape, take the string that you might have some paracord or even a shoelace if you really need to, and you can wrap that really, really tight around the end of that joint, just like the duct tape, but using string just like I did here. And that's a great way to fix something if you don't have that duct tape with you as well. Of course, it doesn't have to be duct tape. Duct tape just tends to stick to itself really easy, and I like how it packs so flat. But of course, a roll of electrical tape, masking tape, anything like that will work. So I hope everybody is in good health. I'm going to continue with some videos going on. The next one I'm going to do for you is bear spray. So I'm going to spray out the rest of one of my cans that I have from a camp trip, and bear spray expires after a time, so I need to get rid of it anyways, and it's always good to practice. So it'll be a real short video, but we've talked about bears enough this year that I figured might as well throw one of those cans out there, let you all see what it looks like when it sprays, and we'll talk to you later. Take care, everybody. I hope everybody's in good health. Get outside, enjoy the weather, good or bad, doesn't matter. Get in the rain, get in the wind, it's all good. Some of my favorite times to get out there is when it's not perfect out. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.